take part in this activity because we recognize that daffodils coming up from hard, cold soil every spring are truly a symbol of hope for us. And when we look at the effects of what gun violence can do in our community, we certainly need to have hope. And there are great reasons to have hope in our community. And we believe that the daffodils, as they come up in the spring, are certainly great symbols of hope. Today we're joined by many people who see that hope in our community and who encourage that hope in our community, and we'll hear from them today. Also, these folks who are with us will be discussing too what kind of effects gun violence have on all of us. Gun violence doesn't affect just one person or even just one family, but affects a whole community. And we'll hear from a few different community members. Family of a victim. We'll hear from Chief Burbank, who is very familiar with some of the things that we're seeing here in our community, and also we'll hear from an emergency room physician. So let me just tell you the order that we'll go in, and we'll hear from these folks. We also are pleased to have Charlie Luke, Councilman Charlie Luke, who chairs the Salt Lake City Council. He'll speak first, and then we'll hear from Dr. Charles Pruitt, who is a pediatric emergency physician and child advocate. After Dr. Pruitt, we'll hear from Carrie Jones-Fonsbeck, who's the program officer for the YWCA. Following Carrie, we'll hear from Police Chief Burbank, and then we'll hear from Norbert Winston. He and his wife Valerie are here today, and they are parents of a gun violence victim, Kenyatta Winston, and they will speak to us. And I want to first thank all of these people for participating with us today. And also you'll see that we have the fire department represented as well. We have Chief Carl Lieb representing the fire department, as well as many others. We have the police department here in great force. We have members of the Gun Violence Prevention Center. We have representatives from the YWCA and many other community members who've joined us today. And I want to thank them for their encouragement and for the hope that they hold for our community as well. We'll go with the program that way, so we'll hear first from Councilman Charlie Luke.
Thank you, Karen. So as Karen Hale was saying, gun violence doesn't just affect one individual or one family. Gun violence affects everybody in our community. Salt Lake City is fortunate in that, in comparison to other cities of our size, our gun violence numbers are down from where a lot of these municipalities are. But that doesn't mean that we can rest on those laurels. It means that we've done quite a bit with our public safety officials, both in the police department and also the fire department. But we can do more. Violence adds stress to a community. Whenever something like this happens, it does impact everybody. But gun violence is one of the few things that as a community we actually do have some control over, through better outreach, through better education. Gun violence is something that we can decrease. And I just want to thank the YWCA for its work. I want to thank the Gun Violence Prevention Center for its work. All of the different groups that work to educate not only our children, but youth, adults, to the dangers of gun violence. It is something that is preventable. It is something that we can have a positive effect on by continuing to do this type of outreach. So it's very important for us to do this. It's very important for us to work together because by creating a violence-free environment, it decreases the stress of not only of our kids that are going to school, but as parents who send our kids out into the world every day, it decreases that stress. And it truly is something that if we continue to work together, if we have all of the different the public safety officials with the city, with the nonprofit and community groups that work together, it is something that we really can have a positive influence on. So I want to thank all of you for being here today. It is something that we've been very proud to be a part of for the past several years, and look forward to our continued involvement. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen, and the Mayor's Office for inviting me here today. And Charlie, thank you for your work with advocacy groups, including Voices for Utah Children. I am Dr. Charles Pruitt. I'm an emergency physician with Primary Children's Hospital, and I'm also the advocacy medical advisor for Primary Children's Hospital. Today, I would like to remember some of my patients who have suffered and tragically died because of gun violence. I remember the young boy who found his grandmother's gun that she kept at her place of business, thinking that she would protect her business. And this young boy did what my colleague, Dr. Jeffrey Jackman, studied and proved that children will do when they find a gun. He pointed it and he pulled the trigger, and tragically he shot and killed his younger brother. I also remember the young father who kept a loaded gun at his bedside to protect thinking that he would protect his family. When he heard a sound in the night, he shot in that direction. The bullet, unfortunately, did not find a home invasion intruder. It found his daughter, who was critically wounded and maimed for life. I also remember the young mother who was shot in a drive-by shooting. And as she laid dying in the emergency department, her child was born with severe brain injury and is still being cared for today because of that severe brain injury. But I also today want to honor my colleagues and the healthcare workers who care for the victims of gun violence. And I want to honor people like Dr. Claudia Fruin, a local pediatrician who saw this problem, recognized this problem, and did something about it. She started an advocacy group called Bulletproof Kids, a very, very smart gun violence prevention program, which was recently honored by the Academy of Pediatrics as their top advocacy program. And I want to honor those people here today. The mayor, the mayor's office, city council, the fire department, the police department, the Gun Violence Prevention Center, and the YWCA, whose Week Without Violence is ongoing this week. And most importantly, I want to honor you all for being here today to help honor my patients by helping to prevent future gun violence in our wonderful city, our beautiful state, and our great nation. Thank you all very much.
My name is Carrie Jones-Fonsbeck. I'm the Chief Program Officer for the YWCA Utah. And I'm grateful to stand here with all of these wonderful people doing this work every day and advocating for those that cannot advocate for themselves. I'm also here to acknowledge the loss that we all suffer when we lose loved ones, neighbors, and friends to needless violence. I think it's incredibly meaningful that we're gathered here on this ground and at this place that is dedicated to the safety of Salt Lake City residents. especially during this week, the YWCA's International Week Without Violence. The YWCA Utah has been in this community for over 100 years, addressing needs of women and children in their quest to find education, equality, community, and safety. At the YWCA, we believe that being safe and free is fundamental to women's empowerment and to her ability to lead a happy and healthy life for herself and for her family. Today, the YWCA is Utah's oldest, largest, and most comprehensive provider of shelter, transitional housing, supportive services, and education for men, women, and children who have experienced abuse and violence at home. Too many of them are victims of gun violence. Just last week, residents of the YWCA's transitional housing program joined together in a creative writing workshop, a class that had proven to be a safe space in processing all that they've been through. Collectively, they created the following poem entitled The Garden. Well, if it's a kind garden, let's call it kindergarten. The kids, the grandkids. I used to have a green thumb, now I don't have a place. You grew, another ground to walk on. Inside, I had flowered too. The value of hard work was the payoff. Wanting to eat from the tree in the middle of the garden, I think only of red, juicy tomatoes. How can I think about having a garden when I am cold and fragile? I will make it through tonight because spring is in sight. This garden will forever be my place of peace. Today we plant daffodils in remembrance of those we've lost. As these beautiful survivors remind us, this garden will forever be my place of peace. These daffodils are about love, beauty, loss, hope, and new beginnings. I hope for each of you, they not only acknowledge what we collectively have lost, but represent a commitment to offer support to a loved one, to provide that safe haven, to model what healthy and loving relationships really look like. I hope that for any of you experiencing abuse, they represent safety and a brighter future for each of you struggling in a home where abuse is present, and a colorful reminder of how precious each life, how precious your life is in this community. To those of you feeling unsafe at home, the YWCA is here for you. We're afraid for your safety and for the safety of your children. You do not deserve to be abused or mistreated. It is not your fault. We're here to help whenever you're ready. 2 important resources at the YWCA that are always available: walk-in services support around the clock, particularly between 9 and 5 at the Salt Lake Area Family Justice Center, where many agencies have come together to provide support. Additionally, a 24-hour hotline is available, not only to victims, but friends or family that might want to ask questions about how to help. I also remind you of what your sisters at the YWCA have shared from their experience as survivors. You will make it through the night because spring is in sight. We encourage you to reach out for support. The YWCA Utah is grateful to stand with all of you who are such important partners in the efforts to stop violence in our homes and, as a result, in our community. We thank all of you for your participation and encourage you to do your best to plant the seed in making the world a little more safe for all of us. Thanks.
Today in our nation, 400 people approximately will lose their lives to violence. 400 people today alone. It is one of the most startling statistics that, as a police representative, it's difficult to even comprehend. Why do we in society view that as acceptable? There is no acceptable loss in a free society. Why are we not outraged that one individual will lose their life today to violence? It does not matter what side of the issue you're on, what your politics are, what your religious beliefs are. You cannot argue that individuals who intend to do others harm have access to firearms and do just that in our country every single day and in this city. We need to stand together. This is not about the police department. It's not about the fire department. It's not one single entity. It's about each of us standing up and saying, we will no longer tolerate this level of violence in our society. It is unacceptable to report that crime is down a certain percentage, that we had fewer homicides this year than last year, when you sit across the table from a family member and say, but your loved one lost their life. It is inadequate to send people out with even a remote chance that they cannot walk freely down the street, that they cannot engage in their daily activities, that they cannot go to work, go home, and enjoy safety in our society today. One of the things that I've found in 23 years in law enforcement is I've encountered individuals who have been the victims of crime, whose family members have been victimized and in some cases lost their life. Thankfully, I cannot imagine losing one of my own children. But what I have found is these families who have every reason in the world to shy away from society, to be hateful of the police department who did not get there in time. But those families who stand up and say, we are not going to be defined by the violence that we have been subjected to. We are going to do something about it. Yes, we have suffered, but we are going to make society that much better. I have tremendous respect for these individuals. And it's with that I'm very proud to introduce Norbert. And I don't think Valerie's speaking, but the Winston family certainly deserves our recognition to stand and say, we are not going to tolerate this anymore. And so I'm proud to be here with them today.
Well, the first thing I'd like to do is thank Salt Lake City, thank the police department, the mayor's office, everyone who had a position and a part to play in this terrible situation, our loss. It's really good to be here today, to be here, to be in a community where you can obviously see individuals still care about life. This has been an ongoing struggle, not only for myself, but my family, my children as well. So to be able to be here right now, I'm very, very grateful to have an opportunity to be a part of something like this. Week without violence, that's where it starts. And a week can turn into a month. You know, a month can turn into 6 months and then years. So, it's touching my heart. I'm feeling some feelings now, but it's really good to be here. And again, I really want to thank the community as a whole, and especially the police department, the mayor's office, and everyone who diligently worked for hours to bring about a resolution for me and my family. It affects the entire community, children, grandmas, extended family. So, again, to be here right now, to be in the presence of wonderful people who care, it's just really good. And thank you.
Thank you to Norbert and Valerie for being here with us today, and as Chief Burbank said, for believing in our community and having hope in our community, and believing that the violence that they have experienced will not affect their hope that they have for all of us. So thank you to Valerie and Norbert. We truly appreciate you being here. Thank you to the efforts of the police department, the fire department, the Gun Violence Prevention Center, and for the YWCA for its great work to combat violence in our community as well. We'll now plant the daffodils And as we've mentioned to all of you, these daffodils are in honor of those victims of gun violence, but they also symbolize hope. So we hope you'll join us today in taking a clump of 5 bulbs, placing them in these prepared areas for the daffodils. And I'd also like to thank Marianne Siegendorf from Salt Lake City Public Services, who has worked to prepare this ground for us to do this today. We'll plant these, and like I say, we'd invite all of you to come and participate in this. And next spring, I hope you'll drive by down 5th South, past this public safety building, and see these great symbols of hope. We'll have over 800 bulbs that will have been planted in the last 2 years that will be right in this area. So thanks for being here today, and please join us as we plant the bulbs.